All right. Hello. We're getting ready to start right now. You can email me at woodburyhillstudio@gmail.com for the reference. You can also get it on our main page. If you want a higher resolution, I'd suggest sending me an email, and I'll keep an eye out through the painting. Also, if you're watching this after it's already aired, you could still ask for the image if you want to paint it outside of this and just paint along after it's already streamed. The model is Nickie Jean. You can find her on Instagram. I think most platforms you can find her at Nickie Jean. Her handle's up there. If you paint her, you should tag her. I'm sure she would love to see. She's a very kind person and loves artists, so I'm sure she would love to see anyone that painted along. So basically where I'm going to start off right now is just with my stain. I haven't done anything. I'm going to get some colors out. Winsor Newton Cobalt. My palette that I have out right now for this particular portrait, I'll be using Indian Yellow, Burnt Sienna, Pale Yellow Ochre, Titanium White, Manganese Blue, the Cobalt right here, Crimson Alizarin, Crimson Alizarin Permanent, Olive Green, Scarlet Lake, and then a combination of Manganese Violet and Cobalt Violet. I'm using a couple extra purples. I've been kind of flexing with them and kind of using them in my flesh tone palette, and I really enjoyed them. I've really enjoyed using these and adding, especially the Cobalt Violet. The Manganese is nice, but it keeps it's like more of a muted, dull, and then the Cobalt Violet is really holds its own and comes through and has a really nice glowy richness. So I'm going to start off just by getting my stain and my drawing color, and that is a Crimson Alizarin, and I'm working in oils. You can paint along with anything. You can even draw, but the rule or the things that I follow will be under oil painting. So disregard anything that falls under. I know like watercolors and stuff kind of work opposite of oils. So, but this is a fun image. We've been due to COVID, we started doing FaceTime photo shoots instead of shooting in person or having a model just sit for a portrait. We started doing these FaceTime shoots, and I've really enjoyed it, and I probably will continue to do it outside of COVID because it's opened up the doors to work with models that live in other states. And the quality is not as the photo quality isn't as good as in-person photography, but that's where you kind of benefit as a painter, that you don't need the super high res that you would if you were a photographer. So what I did is did the Crimson Alizarin, Olive Green, and then I'm going to add some Indian Yellow. And it's going to go in that order. Usually, I'm actually, since there's a lot of warmth due to her veil, and she's wearing purple and got gold on, I'm going to actually increase my olive green, only because I want a complementary, want something to glow underneath, and I'll add a little bit more Indian Yellow as well. But usually I would add alizarin, olive, Indian as my ratio. But I'm going to punch it up a little bit. Yeah. Cool. That's the color I want. I'm going to go with a little more of mix. First I'm going to do a little bit of a bright Indian yellow, and then for my drawing more stain of her, I'll add more of the olive. First I'm going to do a little bit of composition play. I use my squeegee at first. It keeps it really loose. It also helps me build some shape. So I'm just finding where I'm going to keep her in here, because depending on what you're going to do, I mean, you can zoom in on the reference, you can do the whole image, you could have, you know, just a chunk, you know, there's so much you can play with on here. I mean, even just if you want to do the hands and the mouth area, I mean, there's so much you can just choose from, or do the whole image. So that's kind of where what I'm doing right now. I'm finding her in there, and how much I want to place. And this one's going to the model, so I want to think about framing. I want to think about getting the composition in of most of her, you know, locked in center area. I don't want it too much to run off, but I want to do a nice cool kind of breathing shape. There's a lot of cool anchor points. I'm kind of building, you know, I want a decent amount of space from the top before I start her. Don't want it to get too, don't grow the image and how much it takes up, and then all of a sudden you have to cut off something you want. So this is why I kind of take my time in the composition and go really light on my color, and I don't get too much color or stain in. I just lightly move some around because I kind of just want to find that. And you know, I'm not quite at that stage where some painters can just kind of lock that in a little bit easier and have cleaner brush strokes, or in control of their brush a little bit more, and they're able to kind of just drop it in more purposeful brush strokes. And I'm not quite there yet, and I'm working there. But to each his own, you know, this is personally how it helps me make sure I get everything I wanted and see it right. And I start paying attention to my negative space and how much of that open area behind her I'm wanting. And her arm kind of runs off, so I almost think I want to cut off where that would and just go into where the wrist would and do a really fun shape. There's a lot of crisscrossing because she's holding the veil, and then the veil wraps around her neck, and then she's got the underdress, then she's got the veil and the eyes. Like, there's a lot of cross patterns, so it's really fun. You can play with the composition here and really try to find what you want to rock in that movement. There's a lot of movement in this, so that's why I thought it'd be fun to paint for a paint along, because it's got a lot of movement, and then she's got a lot of emotion in her eyes. She's a great model in that way, and a really fun shoot. So now that I got a kind of general, it's kind of hard to see because it's light, but I got a general lock-in of where I want things and how big I want it to ultimately end up, because you know, your paintings tend to grow as you add paint. The more paint applied at a spot, just it will grow just because of actual space. So I really hyper focus on trying to make sure I get a good block in, or else, like I said, I'm not quite capable yet enough to do that just straight off the bat. And what I do is find where I'm going to make a lot of my anchors for the outset at first, and where I'm going to be kind of mapping everything off. And I think the veil, the top of her veil, and the headdress are a great little anchor point, because you can follow down those to that square into that V, and like her face kind of makes it's a cool shape you can fit her face in. So I'm going to measure off from there just to keep my anchor points. coming from one spot. If that makes any sense. So now that I know where I'm putting her face in here, I kind of got that, like I said, that little square shape is great, because then you can kind of figure out where you're going to put the face in from there. And while it's really loose, I'm going to kind of build that movement that goes with the veil. It's a great way to kind of get that underglow that's coming through from the light behind her. And with this one, you know, there is a lot of jewelry that she's wearing, and you know, she's got a lot of tattoos and a lot of makeup, but don't hyper focus on that. Relax the eyes and more just look at a shape at first, and go dark to light, as in, like, you know, the darkness value, dark to light. Lean to fat, as in like how much paint you apply, thin amounts of paint to thicker amounts of paint. And back to front, as in as far back as the atmosphere behind her, leading up to your focal point. And then there's even atmosphere in front of your focal point, because from your model to you is existence and life, air, particles, existence, just life. So there's those layers. So it helps to work from back to front, so you make sure that those get established, and that's kind of why I was saying I'm doing a lot of that glow right now underneath, and because it's there, it's coming through her entire veil. And for me, that's going to be kind of like my background and my light blocker. I'm not going to do a lot of the background. I'm going to just do almost like a halo around her, because that gold from the light just lines her all in. It's a really cool effect. And like I said, I'm not going to overthink all the details on her right now. A lot of those we'll do with highlights. So like I was saying, you want to go dark to light. So just focus on your darks right now, because all of that detail will just be placed in once we get all these darks in. I'm still going very lean with my paint, really loose and thin. So I'm just kind of rebuilding the shape, kind of finding her face inside that, and making sure composition is good. now that I kind of got a good basic shape, there's a lot of information that's kind of just put in subtly to the jewelry and everything. So what I'm going to do is just kind of build those dark shapes around those. Gold and all that reflection. And gold's not, you know, bright yellow. Everyone wants to go straight to just throwing like, you know, a light color. There's a lot of gray and gold, and there's actually a lot of darks. There's not a lot of light that you paint. It's a lot of the darkness that really makes painting. So I'm just kind of getting a basic rough shape in. The reason I'm kind of working on that headdress right here is because with faces I usually work at the ground zero out. And she has a cool little emblem there. So it's kind of just using that as my anchor for her face. And how I'm going to lay and everything. And so her eyebrows and the shelf of her eyebrow is underneath that veil. And there's not a lot of information, so you don't want to go too hard on that. I started to, and I realized that was probably not the best idea, so I'm just gonna give it a quick fix real quick. I went a little too much information. There we go. It's a little softer up there. It's very, she's got really soft features and strong bone structure. So you want to like make sure not to do too much. At first I was doing a little bit more than I needed to. She's got a great look right now on her face. It's really captivating. She's up and out, and so it's this really beautiful angle on her eyes. Something I'm just trying to make sure that I lock in nice before I go too far. And there's so little information on her eyes, actually. It's just, or for her eyebrows, because the veil or the headdress is covering it. So don't get too, for me personally, when I work on eyes, I work on the brow, like your actual eye shelf. And so, or, like your actual eye, this area. And so this is what's covered on her right now. So I'm making sure just to focus on that and not get caught up on that space from there. It's a very beautiful look, very like strong, and she was very fun to shoot. She invoked a lot of emotion. She was very, very fun and playful, and not playful in her poses, playful in her ability to let go and just lean into a role. It was really fun. It's very difficult. These are all new things for myself and for models too, doing these FaceTime shoots. They're, this is a model who's used to dealing with photographers on set, and it's a whole different kind of program, and it's a new thing for all of us, but I really enjoy it, and I think it's at least for, maybe not photography, not good long term or for long term, but for painters, I think it's a great way to get a touch of some models that you usually can't paint from life, But it's been really fun. You can do between the FaceTime shoots and then the Zoom. You can do a lot virtual with painting now, and it's really fun. I just like painting with people, and I like working with people, and it's been really nice being able to still collaborate well and actually even paint more with people. I've done more paintings with people during this than before because you kind of just get caught up painting, and you don't go to a lot of workshops and classes, and all of a sudden everyone's doing all these Zoom meetings and everything, and it kind of just worked perfect. It worked out really nice. And now we have like Natalia Fabia is one of the people who inspired this. Originally, our friend Jason Wheeler was the one who suggested this years back. And then due to COVID, and like I said, Natalia Fabia, she's a great artist. Weekly, she does these online free on Instagram. Natalia Fabia, only on Instagram, she does the free ones, and then she has some Zoom classes. And if you're wanting to take any good portrait classes, and you like really fun and vibrant, but then really well done art as well, she's a great teacher. So go check her out because she's one of the inspirations behind this. Like I said, and also our friend Jason Wheeler, and it's been really fun painting. It's with these, oh, speaking of, if you're just painting along and you'd like to interact, you can either, obviously comment while you're painting, or you can send emails, or we can do a Zoom room while we're doing these, or a FaceTime or something so we can actually interact. Just let us know. Either hit us up on woodburyhillstudio at gmail.com or just here directly on Twitch. And we can, even if you're seeing this after it airs, you can do it for the next one, and we can email you when we're going to do them. Or, we just like to paint with people, and I'm not poo-pooing people that have teaching classes. Just I'm not an artist that's in any place to be teaching people. I just like to paint with people, and I'm just trying to encourage people to paint, have a place where people have a reference. All our references are through us. It's It's not online, no photograph. Everything's either a person, place, or thing. We either have someone in person, and that's the big nail. Well, it's all big nail, but then that one's more like an interview podcast when we have someone in house. And then we have the places and things, and people too if they're not in house like Nickie and we're just doing on this. But we just want people to paint together and have a reference and a place to go paint with others. And I'm only speaking what I'm doing, so if you do need it, that's cool. If you don't, you don't. I don't, like I said, I'm not super prolific. I've learned a lot of what I know through Dave, through Michael Husser, and I'm just regurgitating what I've learned and then saying out loud what my marks that I'm making or the decisions I'm making and why. And comment below if you have some other suggestions. I'm also, like I said, I'm not doing this to be a teacher or anything. I'm doing this just to paint with people and have a place for people to get images. And what's cool, I always try to provide something fun that could, you can use multiple ways. If you're a character artist and you like do more of that stuff, there's I try to do images that invoke that. And then if you're just trying to do studies, and I try to make sure everyone has something fun to do. Sometimes it's just little studies at home, food studies, or oh yeah, speaking of that, we are actually going to have the reason we did a later one today is we did an interview with Manny Cruz, who was an ex-professional rollerblader and tattoo artist. He's a painter, very interesting person. So we did an interview with him today, and we're going to have a live paint along with that interview fed in. So it's going to be a really fun one. So that's either going to be tomorrow or Wednesday. I'll update if it's relatively soon, if it's going to be tomorrow. And that one's going to be really fun. Really interesting conversation, really fun conversation. So keep an eye out, because that one's going to be really fun. And so I'm just going in and reestablishing the dark areas and finding her in there. And since there's a lot of that gold, I was just laying in a little bit of my transparent, my Indian yellow stain, part of the stain in. And then I'm going to go ahead and reestablish some of my darks now that I kind of got my composition in. And if you're just joining now, you can email me at woodburyhillstudio@gmail.com for a higher resolution, or you can find it on our Twitch page. And if we're painting in oils, feel free, you can drop in with pencils or anything. So I'm just going to go in and I'm reestablishing my darks. And this one's really fun. So you can go in and zoom in and you can pick any part of this painting, this reference, and it's just got some really fun information. And with the veil and the headdress, don't overdo any of the information at first. Just go really simple. Focus, kind of fuzz your eyes out a little bit with the image and just work on general shapes. And I work back to front, lean to fat, dark to lights. So right now I'm going really loose with my paint. I'm establishing my darks, finding my composition. And like I was saying with the headdress, you don't want to do too much. Most of it's going to be the darks. So don't get kind of caught up in doing all the reflections and all the information. I'm working on just the undershadow and kind of just building the shape underneath. The color I'm using right now is I'm only using burnt sienna, olive green, and Indian yellow, and kind of doing variations of that right now. And this is just my stain and underpainting. And there's very little information on her actual shelf of the eyebrow. Like I said, it's all of the filigree from her headdress. So I'm not going to worry about too much detail right now. I'm just going to get in my darks that I'm seeing and build the shape up there. And make sure to constantly measure on this reference because there's a lot of information. There's crisscrosses going on. There's a lot of jewelry, makeup, her hands in there. So that's adding a whole nother kind of dynamicness to it. So keep that in mind, you know, don't overdo that information yet. All right, so I got to kind of blocked in with my darks, or with my stain. And now I'm going to go ahead and mix some of my grays and my darks. So I use cobalt blue and burnt sienna. And this is going to be my black right here. And it's also going to be what I pull from, I pull my grays out of. Oops, sorry, real quick. Checking my email real quick. All right. So, and then I'm going to mix my parts, my 1+ for my grays. I'm probably going to do 3 different white piles for my grays. I'm going to do a manganese blue, and just a little bit at first, just a little dab. I just want a nice cool light color. I'm going to do a Scarlet Lake. Same thing, just a little dab. And this is all varies. This is, you know, based on personal view of what you see on the next one. I've heard a lot of people saying that you shouldn't use purple directly, or you shouldn't, I don't know. But I've personally really been enjoying working with my cobalt violet with flesh tones and with my grays. or just with people in general, flushes. I know in theory, I guess what it is that you should be able just to mix that color, which is totally true. It's totally true. You could. It's just I one day grabbed that cobalt violet for fun because I really like purple, and I was working on something I think that it kind of would work with, and I tried it with flushes and I really liked it. And then compared to when I try to mix purple with my palette, it was getting very muted based on my palette here, and so I added it to mine, and I don't know, I really like it. It's nice, keeps a nice rich warm and cool balance. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my grays and I'm going to mix them in, and I'm going to start working on my darks and my grays. And if while you're mixing them, you won't see too much of a variation, but the little variation makes a big difference. You know, it really adds to that dimension, you know, adding more depth to the person. Oh, sorry. Adding more depth. And then also like adding that kind of twinkle effect. Not necessarily like twinkle as in like sparkles on there, but with your eye flickering at an image and or bouncing. I've noticed. And then I'm going to add one more to my blues, my cools. So I got cool, warm, and then I got kind of a mix. And for my warm, I'm going to actually punch up a little bit more, just because I want, there's a lot of warmth and red coming off of her and bouncing off of the veil. So I kind of wanted to add a little bit more extra of my Scarlet Lake to my warmth because of that. That veil is adding a layer of, or it's adding a lot of bounce and reflection. All right. Sorry, I had to fix something on my computer real quick. Alrighty. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some of my grays going around. I'm gonna start off with my warm overall to that depth and that realness to me personally. I mean, not to me personally, to just fundamentally, you know. And you know, obviously you can do whatever, and there's exceptions to the rules, and I don't always follow the rules too, but it's just really good habits to practice because it really does make the difference overall. So I'm going to go in with my warms first, and I'm going to go through all my gray area and kind of just bookmark some areas. Like I said, she's got a lot of warmth bouncing on her and her shadows due to the veil, and then also because of the headdress is gold, and it's adding actually a good balance of that both, that play of cool and warm. But right now I'm focusing just on the warmest warms on her. The grays that have the most red in her, like you could see the red from her veil coming through. Those are the ones I'm worrying about first. And it's only because I'm doing them first because I try to work from the ones that, for lack of a better word, infect the painting, like, or, you know, certain colors just stay no matter what. It's kind of hard to get rid of them, or they just bleed in, and Scarlet Lake is one of those. So if you're using Scarlet Lake, I try to just practice going to using the colors that do the most damage first, but it doesn't really matter. That's the only reason why I do that. She's got a great direction that she's holding her eyes in. It's really fun. It's also kind of challenging. At least, like I said, I'm by no means any kind of professional. I'm, you know, some people are, if you're watching and you're just painting along, you're like, no, it's not that hard. But it's just one of those ones that you just gotta, like, her head's straight, but her eyes are looking up and her head's not really tilted up. So you're gonna want to usually follow sometimes, or I tend to want to follow the eye line in the rest of my painting and not just where her eyes and everything line up. So that's the only reason I was saying that out loud. There you get some more of that warmth. And her veil is covering her lip. So I just wanted to get some of that warm shadow in there now. It's not as dark as in the painting, but I'll cover through it. And I'm just finishing up the rest of these warm grays. And then I'm going to go to my purples in a second, but I'm going to get a little bit, she has a lot of that veil bouncing off of the side of her face right here. I'm going to use my little baby squeegee now to kind of carve into her eye now. I like using these in the beginning stages. I like them more than using kind of the side of your brush to move some stuff away, because it keeps the paint more so on the painting compared to when I use my brush. She's got these really, really fun highlights that she put in her makeup. I'm just actually going to go ahead and drop that in with that same highlight, but the brightest, lighter version of it real quick while I have my warm brush out. Kind of bookmark some areas, because it's always good to keep your brushes in the same temperature range. So while I'm doing these warm, darker grays, I'm going to lock these in real quick before I switch out brushes. Really, she's got a really nice, soft, round shape right there. It's really fun. She got really, because of all that the highlighter and then the stark bold black eyeliner. It's really fun. Makes for a really cool shape right there. And that's kind of a cooler gray, so I'm going to get a little bit more of those warmer ones in. Now I'm going to go back and do a couple more darks real quick. A couple more darks, and then I'm going to go into my cool grays and then get ready to make some of my midtones and get some flushes on there. So I'm just reestablishing some of my darkest darks right now. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go in and get a little bit more dark on her eye real quick. Really fun makeup, how she had it highlighting in her eye. Adds a really, really, really fun shapes. That's what's been really nice with this FaceTime. Like I said, is you can deal with models from other states too. They've been wanting to, and Nickie Jean is someone I've followed for a while. That's every time I see her images, they're so much fun, and you know, she's got so much whimsicalness and such a sweet and powerful spirit, and it's really cool. She's fun every time I see her. She's got an interesting look and unique, and it was really fun doing this with her. And she brought a lot of energy to it, and I really commend her because it's just so awkward at first over these Zoom ones compared to in person. And I really commend her for just kind of like, you know, I've done a few of these, and it's hard. I have my friend Sam, our friend Sam, Lady Long Limbs, same thing. Monique, we've done quite a bit of these shoots now, and every model, it's awkward, especially when they're so used to doing things completely different, and there's a disconnect with the screen, so it adds a whole nother layer. And I don't know, it's been really fun working with people that have just really rocked it and come up with some really cool images. So she's got a lot of light in her eye, so don't get kind of too caught up doing too much. Simplify them. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little bit more on her eyes real quick. Alright, I'm going to go into my cools. So go ahead and switch brushes unless you're already past the warms. And I'm going to go ahead and start getting my cool grays in, which is my manganese and white. Mainly white with just a little dab of manganese just to kind of add a really cool color to it. And then I mix that in with my grays, or my dark, which is just the cobalt blue and burnt sienna. And so now I'm going to go into my cool areas and start getting those grays in. And the grays are going to be really important. And I mean, it's always important, but there's a lot of gold and like the metal pieces, and the grays are what's really going to make those, and the darks are really what's going to sell those. So trust getting your grays in and spending a little bit more time and not rushing to getting to flushes, because then you're just going to have to do your job harder the next time, because there's a lot of grays needed to build up that shape in the headdress, which is where I'm going to start going when I get to like a yellowy kind of gray. This brush will be better for my warms. Here we go. And there's not much of her eyebrow. It's going to be built up by the headdress because it's covering up right above her eyebrow. So build that kind of undershadow on there first. Getting a couple more warms in, just getting these grays in. There's a lot of grays. Okay. I think I got a lot of the ones that I'm going to use on her face for her grays. I'm going to kind of start working on the headdress to get some of those kind of shape in, that grays on those, and then get some mid-tones going, start mixing some flushes. Drawing brush, whatever I did with it. Okay, now for my midtones, I'm going to start off, kind of take a look at her flesh tone for a minute. I've been painting for a while with her grays, and you know, there's a lot of warmth in it. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to get a burnt sienna. Pale yellow ochre. And I'm going in the order of most to least amount of paint mixed into this, or percentage of paint. Olive. And then a little bit of my cobalt violet. And then I'm going to mix it up, kind of see where I'm at. And this is going to be a richer color. This is going to be your mid-tones. This is going to be like the catalyst for mixing down and building her highlights and different variations. And I like where I'm at right now. I think that's a good, you know what, I might add a little bit of alizarin. Let's see. And a smidge of cobalt. Just a little neutralizer. All right. Let me get a little bit more titanium white. And I'm going to do the 1+ just like I did with the grays. This time I'm going to add Indian yellow or pale yellow ochre in on top of the other colors as well. So I'm going to make my little piles just above those other ones in the higher range. So I'm going to do my just a little dab, just same with everything, just a little teeny tiny. You want your white to be your majority of it. Then my purple, my cobalt violet. And this one I'm going to go kind of rich on this one, not too much. Just one corner off to the side, go a little richer on that one. Just because what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of this in her highest highlight. Okay. And I am going to get her hand in. I was just going to focus a little bit more on getting some of her face in, and then we'll go in and drop those grays right over. And she's got a lot of that tattoo, so I kind of wanted to play with that too in a little bit. But let's finish off this one right here, a little bit of scarlet. And a little bit of manganese. I'm going to start off with her warms and mix a little pile off to the side, somewhere where, you know, like I lead in, I fan in, and I was going to put it up there, but I made enough space for the mids to be down here. All right. A little bit more scarlet and a little bit more alizarin. I want a little bit more of like a red. She's got that blush on the apples of her cheek. Just reestablishing some of her nostril. I lost it when I put my gray in. And what makes up her forehead and her eyebrow is a lot of the shape of this headdress. So I'm just going ahead and dropping on the under the darks from the shadow, picking up from the headdress and from her hair, coming in between. Just making sure to remeasure everything as I'm going. And I'm just laying in a few more darks, and it's all about reestablishing your darks, working back to front, lean to fat, dark to light. And so I'm just going ahead and reestablishing some of my darks, bookmarking some stuff. Reestablishing that veil shape. Be right back. I gotta check on my cat. I think he's trying to get in. Alright, sorry about that. I just had to go check on my cat real quick. I'm just going to go ahead and reestablish some of her shape around her real quick. And then I'm going to start getting some of those flushes in. I just want to add a little bit of the warmth kind of that's actually there of the veil and add some of that color in before I get too much into her flushes, just so once I drop them in I'm not having to rearrange anything or rechange it, you know. Once put the red in, it will affect everything around it. So I'm just doing a little bit around her because I might do something kind of fun. I don't know how I'm going to end the veil. I'm going to kind of start rendering into her, but I might do something fun and play with the shape around her in the border. So I'm going to leave a lot of that kind of loose and almost on the back of the painting and not get too much paint up yet. I don't know yet. See what happens. Want to do something really fun because this is the paint that's going to the model. Want to do something fun with the composition, and this reference itself invokes so much regardless. It's really fun. It really makes you want to play with light and movement. All right. Let's get oh, some of that red does come back from behind. Right, so now that I got a little bit of that warmth, just so I could, like I said, so I can kind of have it on there before I put the flushes in. I'm going to do a little bit actually reshaping of the dark around her too, now that I did that red. Made some stuff kind of stand out that I need to fix. Now I cut in a little bit more on her face. It's because I realized the shadow that rolled off her cheek went out a little far. So when I put in the highlights, I'll go ahead and push that back out and I'll roll it just right over it. Okay. Go ahead and get that cheek in. It's a great little shape and it can kind of just run right off. It's a great way of breaking area. And what I mean by that is like breaking the shape, how I drifted that out of the side of the painting to kind of bring the outside in, if that makes any sense, to bring the atmosphere around her in. Just so nothing's hard-edged. Now I'm going to start off with my warms, just like always. I prefer to start with my warms. Start getting some of these flushes and work my way from dark to light with the flushes as well. I love the look she's giving in this. Her eyes are so pretty, and I'm kind of refraining from getting too much detail in because I kind of want to build around it and then just drop in the lights. But they're so pretty, and I love the way she just did the makeup too. It just kind of really brought them into focus. So really nice. I'm going to get into my purples and kind of roll them in with the color that I'm working with right now. Do her lips real quick. Since we're doing the purple, she's kind of got this purpley nude lip tone. Right now I'm just staying in my temperatures, working on my warms. lighter, get a couple little. I love her makeup choices. The color is really fun on this one. Now a little bit of pinks now to the lips. Just a little bit though, very neutral and matte. Okay. So, I think we got a good amount of the warms. Add a little bit more on her cheek. Just a little bit more glow coming around the outside of that cheek. All right. I'm gonna get some of get her highlights in, and then start working on some details. Getting closer to a likeness. I think once we get the rest of those fleshes in, it will kind of pull more of that likeness out. Let's see, which one are we gonna use to go a little bit softer? Like I said earlier, if you didn't hear in the beginning, if you paint along, tag the model. Her name's up above. It's Nickie Jean. You can find her on Instagram. I don't know on any other platform, but I'm pretty sure you could find her at any of them at Nickie Jean. She's a huge art fan. She's an amazing model. I know she'd appreciate if you shared it with her, if you painted along. And now I'm going to work on some of her her highlights. Get a little bit more paint up now. First we were, when I was talking about lean to fat, this is where I do thicker applications of paint, as in how much paint I'm actually laying down. Before I was going quite light, and now I'll start doing a little bit thicker. Oops. And go ahead and get some of this, a little bit more, my warm in her cheeks. All right. going to start kind of getting some of the details around her in. And start kind of moving around and getting some of the darks back in and doing the same process of darks to light, lean to fat, back to front. Now that I got, it's not quite a likeness yet, but now I can kind of start moving around and finding her shape a little bit better and get her more dialed in on likeness. And that's the thing with people, there's only little tiny variations that make us very different, you know. Really, really not much. I mean, it doesn't matter what skin tone you are, what color hair you have, anything. Like, we're so close. There's these little tiny, minute differences that make us look different or appear looking really that different. And it's really not. Subtle details. That's why likenesses are hard to capture, I believe, you know? Because if it was drastic changes, you wouldn't really, you know, it kind of be easier to nail a likeness. It's the fact that it's subtle and it's little tiny details that make the difference. Little tiny details that sell it. But that's the fun, that's the challenge of painting. I'm going to add a little, there's not as much warmth than I'm putting right now, but I like to put a little extra warmth under that nose, especially with the red from the veil. Go replace that nostril now. I went a little dark initially with it, and another little thing I learned from Natalia was going a little lighter on the nostrils than what you see. She brought up once, and I thought was on her weekly Instagram painting parties. She mentioned not as much information on the nostrils. Go a little light on it, regardless of how dark. Not the information, the darkness. Sorry about that. I got kind of caught up in when I was painting, and drifted off. But yeah, she said don't go not quite as dark as you see, so your eye doesn't get too kind of caught up on it. And I really agree with that, actually. That's a really valid thing. I used to go really dark on the nostril, the underside of the nostril. And it really wasn't needed to make the illusion. You can just go a little less on it. Go a little bit warmer on the other shadow of the nose. Go. Yeah, now I got a little bit more locked in. It's still not quite the likeness, but now I'm going to kind of move around on some other details and reestablish my darks and let the face settle for a little bit, because sometimes you can get kind of into it a lot and kind of overwork some stuff. And I don't really want to do that. I don't want to overwork it too much. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this part soft real quick. I don't want it to dry with a chunk on there. Okay. There we go. Okay, cool. Just wanted to get those chunks off so that it didn't dry on there. Yeah, so now I'm going to kind of go around and reestablish some stuff, and I'm going to go in and get a little bit more of that lip color going again. You can go a little bit darker than I did in the dark. So basically I'm going to go ahead and reestablish all my darks. This is why I like these little squeegees, because you can play with texture while the paint's still wet. So that's kind of what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just carve into some of these areas and establish some of these fun little details going on around her. And since it's still wet, it's really fun just to go in and build some of that shape and textures that you see. With those sequins, it's working out quite nice actually. I like that. She's got a lot of that veil that comes through. All right, I'm gonna get a little bit of this gold in. Now that I have those darks in, this is what I was talking about with the gold, is once you have all those darks in, then you can just easy peasy go and lay in some of this color. Just gonna go ahead and make sure, measure everything up. And mine's starting to get to a point where I'm going to work a little further on this. What I'm going to do is kind of get some of the background established. And I want things to kind of get a little tacky before I get too much further on our face. I'm just going in and kind of tightening up some stuff. Going back into my darks. All right. And now I'm kind of just getting to the point of where I'm getting close to the end. We'll go another 15 minutes. It's almost at our last few minutes, but I got pretty far. I'll probably paint along on this again tonight or tomorrow. So keep an eye out. Like, subscribe, anything. Follow us. We do these weekly. We have ones that will have live models either tomorrow or Wednesday. We will have one from an interview that we recorded earlier today. That one's gonna be really fun. A really, really fun one to paint along to and listen to. And sometimes it's just a still life. Sometimes it's a model in-house. Sometimes it will be a Zoom recording. Others will be from photo shoots, and we'll just have the photo and we'll, more informative or paint alongs. So yeah, I would suggest keeping an eye out either tomorrow or Wednesday, because that one's gonna be really fun. And this one, it's getting pretty worked. I don't like to overwork too much with oil paintings. There's a lot of detail in this one, so I don't want to like rush them, because I'm not doing this as an alla prima. This will be going to the model. So it kind of depends on what you're doing. If you're doing alla prima, work into it a little bit longer if you want, I'll come on later and I'll work on it. I just need mine to get a little bit more tacky before I get into her face. It's getting a little worked and I don't want to start making mud. Because like I said, I'm going to approach hers a little bit slower because this is going to the model. So I don't want to just do alla prima for her. Even though alla primas are some of actually my favorite, because they're just left where they're left, and I believe it means first mark or wet into wet. But basically it means you work into wet painting, the wet paint still, and it's usually within the first day or two. And they're great because, where they're left off, that's just where they are, and unfinished. They're not meant to be finished paintings. Those are some of my favorite. For that exact reason, you get a rawness. You can kind of see the technique of an artist better, just because they haven't worked on it so much. So there's a lot of like left open, a lot of marks that they haven't gotten to yet. So it's really fun seeing all that progress. So I'm just working on some of these grays underneath the gold. Start getting all those details. Little details still. If you're doing alla prima, I would suggest to simplify, because you won't be able to get everything super rendered. If I was doing an alla prima, I would pick maybe just like this a general area to render and try to do a lot of texturing and bringing that light through. Like I was just thinking about doing. It's great while everything's still wet. So much fun textures to play on with this painting. Hold on real quick. I need to check to see if my cat's okay. It's been staying out because it's been warm here. We're fine. We're in Washington State. We're along the coast. We're just north of Seattle. So I know everyone, and if you're watching from the States, I know it's been really hot. And we've gotten lucky. We've got really good weather lately, and I feel bad for you guys. Dave and I moved here from Southern California. We know about that heat, man. And but it's been really nice here, and I don't want to take it for granted. It's so beautiful. It's been like in the 70s, and the warmest it gets is like the 80s. It's so lovely here. And we do these a few times a week, at least 2 times a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, for sure, always. We try to do some in-betweens. We're getting more stuff in the works to do more throughout the week. Dave will be getting back to doing his characters. And we're getting close to the very end of today's session. Keep an eye out. I might drop back on tonight and go a few more hours on it. Follow me on Instagram at woodburyhillstudio at gmail.com. If you followed me on Bonk, something happened with my account and it got hacked and then it got locked. It's a long story. I'm still seeing if I'm going to have that account, but if not, you can find me at woodburyhillstudio at gmail.com or anything at woodburyhillstudio. I'll post my progress. If you paint, tag the model, tag us. We'd love to see. You can find us on Instagram, anything. Oh, let me put up actually a little closer image of my painting. So that's where I got today. It's not quite a likeness yet. Still has a lot to go, but it's getting there. I want to get a little bit more tacky and then start getting into all those details, get her hand in. I hope you guys had fun, and if you just were watching, I hope it helped with anything. And if you have any questions, you can email us, contact us, and keep an eye out every Wednesday and Sunday. Alrighty, everyone. That's it for tonight. Have a good one.